have you guys seen Howard the Duck?
Absolutely.
The movie film from 1986. Not a long
More than
time.
one time.
Not a long time.
All right. Well,
I might have it on DVR somewhere.
DVR.
Yeah, I think in the early days of the internet, when I was still ripping movies and putting them on DVRs, I think this is one that I have I have a couple of binders of like DVRs with movies on them, and this may be one of them.
Jeez, am I going to edit that out because you're just admitting to conspiracies to commit piracy?
I mean, this was, at this point, you're talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think you're safe.
I don't know
But
what the statute of limitations is.
I watched the movie legally on VHS.
Wow, on VHS. Where'd you
Yes.
get that VHS?
Well, I'm glad you asked because I bought this VHS at the mall in 2003. So I was
Which mall are we talking? Are we talking about Emerald Square?
we are. It was at an FYE. It's like for your entertainment. Yeah.
Wow, I've never been to one of those.
Yeah, I was in
What was the Suncoast? Do they still have Suncoast?
Probably not. I don't know. I haven't been to like. It's a very long time since I've been to a mall. But when I was at the mall as a, I was a freshman in high school.
Malls these days aren't doing so hot.
I was in the mall and I saw that VHS tape on the shelf, and it was, I think I had like a wad of cash on me because it was like before I spent.
From hustling?
No, before I used to gamble and spend my money on party supplies, I would just buy movies. So I saw these movies that were like $5, and I was like,
forgot to use the air quotes on party supplies. Party supplies like streamers and hats.
Yes, absolutely, balloons, the works.
What are the things you hit with a stick and you fill with candy?
Pinata.
Pinata. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So I knew nothing about it. I instantly was like, "What is that?" And I looked at it and I saw.
You'd never seen it before in 2000?
Never. I never knew it even existed.
I probably haven't even seen it since 2003.
Yeah, and I was like, "What is that?" And I looked at the tape and I was like, "Is this a movie with a live-action duck?" And it appeared to be. I looked at the back of the tape and there is, in fact, you can see the live-action duck right there. And I was like, "Okay, we're buying this."
What would your reaction have been in 2003 if someone had told you that this Howard the Duck movie that you were about to purchase was actually a Marvel property?
Oh, well, I found that out much later. I didn't know anything about it. I got this.
Get out! You have a comic?
I have a Howard the Duck comic. I got it in like one of the dollar bins at like at one of the Comic Cons that me and Matt went to.
Yeah.
It was like 20 comics for $20, and I saw Howard the Duck, and I was just like, so I had known it was. I think I had known it was a comic before then, but yeah, if I had known in 2000, I wouldn't have. I don't think I knew anything about. I think in 2003, I probably couldn't have told you the difference between Marvel and DC at the time. I don't comic.
Oh my goodness!
Like, well, you
Was your
think
head full of applesauce?
well, when you think of it now, it's like obviously Marvel is like this huge thing, but back then it was like you had the X-Men movies and you had the Spider-Man movies.
Just X-Men, Captain America, Spider-Man, you know.
But there
Thor.
was no. But Captain America didn't have. They didn't have their. There was only Spider-Man and X-Men had their
There was
movies,
some,
and
wasn't
that was
there
Sony.
some old crappy Captain America movies?
Sure.
Or am I misremembering?
There is, but
Yes.
I mean, I think you
I'll
might
give
have
you a
rented
pass
it.
on
Yeah.
on not-
Yeah, you
We
might have
rented
rented
that
it.
once
Yeah.
upon a time, I think.
But yeah,
2003.
but this, I
Remind me
thought
how old you were in 2003. So I was
16. I was
okay.
16.
16.
Yeah, and I saw it was like, oh, produced by George Lucas. It had George Lucas's name on it of Star Wars fame.
Star Wars fame.
So I was like, yeah, this. How can you miss? You got,
How can you miss?
you got Marty McFly's mom in it. You got the guy who's the
Yeah.
jerk principal and Ferris Bueller in it.
Yep.
And yeah, it said, for the record, it says nothing about Marvel anywhere on this
No.
thing. No Marvel.
No.
So even if it did, I wouldn't have known anything about that. But yeah, it's rated PG. And this
Is it?
is not a PG movie.
Yeah,
There
well, the bar
are-
is definitely moved.
There are duck boobs within the first, like, 2 or 3 minutes.
Ducks aren't mammals, so should they have boobs?
They shouldn't, Matthew.
I
That's a good
don't
question.
know.
No, it's actually one of the
Yeah.
defining properties of a mammal.
I know.
And this movie, it cost, the budget was about $30 million, which is a lot of money for 1986.
It's a lot of money for 2022.
Well, obviously, but compared to
for,
like
I guess,
movies
a
and
George
stuff, like
Lucas
a big
movie.
budget,
Yeah, no,
like
that's fair. Yep.
like this is around the same budget as like, you know, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. We're talking like big budget for back then. But anyway, let's I'll start explaining the movie film here.
Movie film.
Yeah, movie film. It opens up right now. What you see is Howard relaxing on his couch. He's on they don't call it anything, so I'm just gonna call it a duck planet. He's on a duck, some kind of duck planet where ducks are the dominant species. And it's basically Earth, but just like a duck themed Earth.
Duck-themed Earth.
Like there's like a Raiders of the Lost Ark poster, except it's got like a duck themed name and a duck instead of Harrison Ford. And Howard is a streetwise duck who enjoys smoking cigars and watching television. That's what I gathered within this opening. And then it gets interesting. Because out of nowhere, she's just getting sucked. That's the only way I can explain it. He's some kind of we find out later it's a laser that's sucking him. He's getting sucked by a laser. And he just goes flying. And during this,
He's got a Mac. Check out that computer.
is that,
It's like what we used to have in high school.
and he and this is during this sequence. This is where the duck boobs come in. But then, so he just goes.
What I want to know
Yeah.
is we're looking at these slides that have pictures and things.
Yeah.
Why no duck boobs?
It's kind of cringe,
I don't really want to see duck boobs. I don't know.
and also,
Duck boobs.
I mean, yeah,
Couldn't you just Google it? I mean, you probably
Yeah.
have another monitor open.
probably, you know, there's like you could just find the scene if you want to see any of these. Actually, watching these scenes, I considered doing this and then just having the video,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah,
it's like
literally.
I don't want to
all you
get
gotta
flagged.
Do is Google. All you gotta do is Google duck boobs.
Yeah, I didn't do actual
First-
video and then we'll get
First
flagged.
result,
So.
second result.
Did you Google that?
Sure.
People are gonna think you're like a furry or something.
Well, it's for science. Well, like, I needed to make sure that I wasn't wrong.
Okay. Well, anyway, Howard goes through space, just flies through space, the vacuum of space. He's able to survive magically. He doesn't die. He lands on a lazy boy couch thing. He kind of lands. He goes through like this roof, bounces, does a flip, and lands on a lazy boy.
One chair to another chair.
Yeah, went out of his own planet's atmosphere, through space, came down to Earth, and landed softly on a chair. And as he's trying to recover from this traumatic event, some 80s street toughs kind of see him, and they're just,
street toughs.
yes,
They
these
look
are,
like they're punks, Michael.
yeah,
I
they
know what
are.
he's describing. I'm just.
One is snarling, and one looks like he wants to do very bad things to him. And they take him, and they kind of pass him around, like the area. He kind of gets, while, the music is playing, which we get to in the next slide about the music. And eventually, Howard ends up in a trash can. He's like, I'm very scared. I don't know what's going on. I'm going for the trash.
Did he put himself in there, or did somebody put him in there?
Oh, I feel like he put himself in there. I mean, I'm not unsure. It was one of those things where it's just like, end of the sequence, he's in a trash can.
So, before we go any further, I'm going to need you to remind me whether Howard the Duck is a little person in a duck costume, or
He is several.
animatronics, or a puppet.
He is several people. He is probably mostly little person. Some animatronics, but he's like a bunch of different people over the course of the movie. That's one of the things, actually, not that we're on this subject, I'll go back a slide here. People were actually like, think that this is one of the bad parts of the movie, which really this is one of the best parts of the movie. This is like, now if they did this, he would be like animated or something, but the fact that they actually tried to make him like a live action duck, like that's what sold me on the box, was live action duck.
Why would that be bad now?
Just because it looks obviously fake, and I don't know, the mouth movements are kind of weird, and
That part of it.
I don't know,
I
like
get that like the costume is not good.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the fact that they used like a you know.
no. But while Howard is going through all this, there's music playing in the background, which is one of the best, I won't say the best part, one of the best parts in the movie is the music. And you have Marty McFly's mom, which is her character in the movie is Beverly, played by Leah Thompson, and she is a rock and roll musician. She is performing in a local club in what I assume is some kind of sleazy part of Cleveland, because that's what we find out. This movie takes place in Cleveland, or as Howard says, Cleveland, because he doesn't know. He thinks it's a land of cleaves. And she's, she's finishing up her show, and she's trying to walk home, and all of a sudden, guess what?
Hoodlums.
More 80s street toughs pop out. But all this happens in the alleyway. That one Howard the Duck is hiding in a trash can, and he's like, he actually says this. I have this slide. This title of this slide on my notes is "Let the Duck Puns Begin," because this, he says, "No more Mr. Nice Duck." And he pops out, and he just goes ham on these street toughs. Yes, Matthew.
I need to interject for a moment. I was looking at the what do you call it? The soundtrack, and George Clinton of Parliament Funkadelic fame is credited as a writer on some of these songs.
Well,
so
that explains.
It makes sense that some of these are pretty rocking.
Yeah, they're it's quality 80s soundtrack. It's 1986. I mean, this is like, this is prime 80s here. And
it's like crack smoking George Clinton.
So
that's kind of like where it's cresting. It's about to kind of, yeah.
But yeah.
The good stuff, man.
So Howard pops out. He handles these street toughs with the ability, his quack fu. He knows quack fu, which, he's a martial artist. And so actually Beverly ends up helping out. They're whacking them. It turns into like they're using weapons and stuff. They're whatever garbage you see. There's garbage there. She's got she's got like a pipe in her hand. She was also participating in this, and they both handle the situation pretty well, considering he's an alien duck humanoid thing, and he's all of a sudden on this planet where everyone's, I'd imagine if this was like a little more realistic, he would be a bit more shocked and like, what the hell just happened? Why am I on a planet?
Be able to speak English, you'd probably be quacking.
Yeah. Well, that, we'll get into that.
Something.
But, what happens next is it starts raining. Like right after the scene, it starts raining. That's why Beverly has her umbrella out. And then they're both kind of looking at each other, and then she's like, "Hey, you got a place to stay?" And obviously he doesn't, because he's an alien space duck. And she takes him home. She takes hey,
Move fast.
Yeah, and this is where she explains, like, he's like, "Where am I?" She's like, "We're in Cleveland," and he's like, "What? No, what planet?" And the comedy ensues. And then, fortunately, Beverly knows a scientist. Conveniently,
this was 1986.
She knows a scientist, and his name is Phil. Dang. Enter
Tim
Phil.
Robbins.
Yeah, Tim Robbins is in the movie as Phil. I have him described as he's a bit of a doofus. He tries communicating with Howard by making Donald Duck noises, which, as you can imagine, I read that Disney wasn't that thrilled with the fact that there is a character that looks like a Donald Duck type thing and he's kind of, you know.
But he's wearing pants.
But he wears
Don't
pants.
wear-
And one thing I noticed that you'll see is like a theme in this is that Howard goes through a lot of wardrobe changes, and it's like, where is he getting these clothes? All these scenes, he has different clothes, different pants, shirts, and stuff, and it's like, where is he getting them?
Maybe
But-
like, did they have the Gap back then, like the Gap Kids store?
I don't know.
You cut out the little tail hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
another?
Actually, when they go and when they're in the taxi cab leading up to this, she has them in a trash bag. She just has this
Like closed
Good
up.
idea.
closed up
Jeez.
in a trash bag. She doesn't want anybody freaking out.
Grim.
And so when they get to Phil, he's making a lot of assumptions. He's like instantly believes he's an alien. You know, he's trying to check to see if he has any powers, which I guess is like a like a superhero Marvel reference thing, checking to see if he has any, like, you know, if he can like read people's thoughts or shoot lasers out of his eyes. And yeah, he's very quick to believe Beverly's story without doing any tests, which is, you know, kind of weird. But unfortunately, this upsets Howard. He doesn't like being treated like, you know, like an animal that's being tested. And so he just bails. He's like, I'm out. I don't want to take this anymore. And then he looks for a job. He goes to one of those places where I guess when someone wants a job and they don't, like, they just go and they try to get hooked up with a job. One of those places, you know?
Yeah.
And
that horse shirt that he has on has googly eyes.
yeah, so this is where he mentions, because the lady he's talking to, she thinks it's just a guy in a suit and that he's into, like, it's like an alternative lifestyle that he's practicing. So she thinks he's a furry, I think. They don't say it, but
I don't think the term didn't exist in 1986.
Nah.
and then this is where also Howard mentions how he got the clothes. That's why his clothes look like he stole them from a kid, because I think he mentions he did steal them from a kid,
Steal them?
or maybe he bought them. But I'm not. I'm unsure of where he's getting his money from, because, you know,
Maybe
they
the
do.
stock market.
In like one of the previous scenes when Beverly takes him home, she goes through his wallet and finds like paper money where it's like George Washington but with a beak and stuff like that. And she even finds like a little condom, which is like, you know, this is a
I
PG.
remember that.
This is a PG movie, folks. Come on, children are watching. But yeah. And yeah, so he gets this job at a sleazy bathhouse, and that's where one of the guy, his boss, like throws him into a jacuzzi with people who are being sleazy, and like instantly quits. Like this whole thing where he bails and it's like a 2-scene thing, and then boom, he's back. He's like a sad Howard wanders into one of Beverly's shows, and he sees a couple people, because previously Beverly mentions how her manager's a jerk and she hasn't paid him, and Howard finds the manager, and he sees the money, and he's looking at these two 80 sleaze balls talking poorly about Beverly, and that's when Howard gets involved and he confronts them. So he's got the cigar. He's about to, you know, he's really, you know, he's threatening the guy. They're not taking him seriously. Big mistake. It's a big mistake. And
It's very large relative to the rest of his body.
yeah, well, he's a duck. And if you got problems with ducks, you know, that's your problem. And so yeah, he threatens, actually probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. He threatens to give them space rabies. And I mean, I can't really do it. I'm not going to try to do the delivery, but it's really good. It's space rabies. Look out. And so he beats up the bozos. He gets the money. He's like a champ. And so you see these, some of these screenshots that I took are a little low quality because I couldn't find a clip for it that isn't good quality. So That's why they're a little low
These
quality.
aren't straight from the VHS that you were watching.
No, those would have been awful. Yeah. So
How many minutes into the movie would you say we are right now?
probably close to like 45, 50 minutes in.
Oh wow.
All right.
Yeah, I'll get you.
A while to get here.
Yeah.
So give me like
This
you-
is this
at
movie.
point
I'll
in
tell
the
you
movie,
in total, this is an hour and 50-minute movie.
if you had to take, like, if you had to pick a character from another movie and say that Howard the Duck is based on this character, like, who would you pick?
Howard, oh, man, it's tough. He's like,
It seems like such a caricature. Like, I feel like he's just like a weird composite of things that worked in other movies in the 80s, but they're layering them onto this ridiculous.
I don't
person
know
in a
if
duck suit.
I would have. I don't know if I would have seen any movies with this kind of character. Like I know what you're talking about, but those kinds of movies wouldn't have really like a wise cracking, cigar smoking character is kind of like
That takes no guff.
yeah, like he knows. Yeah, it's
Knows quack foo.
yeah. But yeah, so he goes, he meets up with Beverly, he gives the band the money, they're very happy, and then out of nowhere, Phil shows up again, and he snags one of Howard's feathers. Yeah. So,
Did he ask? Did he ask first? Or did he grab it?
no, so he taunts him with the tweezers, like you see in that picture there, and then Howard turns around and he snipes it from his tail. But I didn't want to put a screenshot of that because it looks weird. Because it looks like he's just tweezing his duck.
Butthole?
No, it looks like he's tweezing his duck because it's a tail, Matt. It's a tail. He looked like he's tweezing, he's tweezing his duck bits. And yeah. But guess what? Beverly
What?
takes him home.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
Yeah, and this
Wow.
is where the movie it takes a hard turn because this is where Beverly and Howard become an item. I'm pretty sure she's been crushing on him the whole time, but this is where it's like
Rushing on a space duck.
yeah, and there's a whole scene where it's like you're watching it and you're like, what is this? What?
How long is this scene?
Too long. This is when, and then as they're about to they do the thing where it's like you see the camera rolling up and you see the scientists come up and they can just see like the shadow of what's going on, and it's like human and duck are they're like going at it, and that's when they comically the scientists are just like, what's going on? And but for the record, they just show up unannounced. They literally broke into this woman's home. They did not knock or buzz or
Do these guys work with Phil?
These are Phil's, okay.
established Characters?
So what you're seeing, we have not seen. We've seen Phil obviously, but we have not seen the two on the right. And the guy, what's the actor's
Tim
name?
Robbins is the cat on the left.
Yeah, and then the guy on the right, I don't know, this is the guy from
Jeffrey Jones.
Sure, yes, from Ferris Bueller. I just have him as lead scientist guy because I forget what his.
LSD.
Yeah, and so they show up unannounced, and they explain to Howard that they are scientists who have a giant laser, and they shoot this laser. Yes, Matt.
Did they like? Is this in the? So they interrupted in the middle of the
Before
the business that was being transacted.
Yes, before it was there out, I think, as a writing. It was like, we have an out, scientists are going to show up, break it up, and it's going to be funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Continue.
And they explain to how they explain it as some kind of some space laser. So they have the space laser and they shoot the space laser into space. And that's how Howard came to Earth. And they know it because on the night, you could probably barely see it, but they got this television on the screen. And there's this feather. When they shot their laser, there was this feather that fell, that fell to the ground, and they were like, ooh, a feather. And then they used the feather that Phil took, compared them, and realized they're the same thing. So they realized that that laser is what got Howard into space, and now they're gonna send him home. And Howard is ecstatic. He's like, I get to go home. That's why you see him in that bottom thing. He's just like, yes, I'm going home. And this is where I have it saying the movie takes a hard turn. I feel like, because this is an hour and 50-minute movie, and it takes a while to get here, and then the next half of the movie takes a while, and it's like, it should have just been, like, they should have stretched out the whole fish out of water, kind of like, Howard's a duck, and he's trying to live in this human city.
Like Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Sure.
Have some grape juice plus, and you can go shopping at the mall.
I feel like, because this scientist guy is like the bad guy in everything he's ever in, I assume. I don't know if that's true or not. But
sounds about right.
I mean, he's got that look about him. I feel like he should have just been like an evil scientist who just wanted to like capture Howard to like, do tests on him or something. Like,
does his character in Beetlejuice count as a bad guy? He's not really
a heel. I'd say
really
there's
bad,
heels.
but-
Would he be a heel? I think it would be a heel though.
I mean,
He's
Beetlejuice
kind of-
is really the heel in that. Yeah.
Wow.
Is
Wow.
he not?
I mean, maybe sometime I'll have to explain Beetlejuice to you, because it sounds like,
I mean, I'm on that side in this one.
Okay, well,
Have you
Yeah,
not
I mean,
seen
he literally turns into a snake, and he's trying to like eat the Maitlands, and he's like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
next.
Anyway,
So they show up to the lab, the space lab, and things are not going well. Everyone's freaking out, and the group is
So these
confused.
people in the duck just stroll into a space lab, and no one is fucking.
Yeah,
Space
there's
lab,
one
right?
scientist that's
Scientist?
like, there's one scientist guy that sees them and is like, is that him? But I think they're more concerned with their laser freaking out. Something has happened. And then what happened was they tried to use the laser, and things went terribly wrong, and the cops show up, and they try to arrest Howard. And they also think that Howard is a furry in a costume, and they try to strip him down. And the one cop's like, I can't find the zipper. They're trying to get this suit off of him, but they can't because he's a duck. He's a real humanoid talking duck. And then Beverly saves him. She gets him out of there. And they meet up with the lead scientist guy, who is now, he is just, something's not right about him. And he has been possessed by whatever the laser brought down. It's very concerning. But they're like, hey, you want to go, get some food? And they're like, yeah. So they go to a diner.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow, he looks beat up.
they're at a diner. And the scientist explains, he's like, I am the Dark Overlord. I come from a demon region of space. And the movie, it's a very serious situation. This is a demon space alien that is now on Earth.
Very serious situation.
Very serious. Very serious. And he's going to use the laser, he tells them, to bring his space pals, his space demon pals, to Earth, and they're just going to dominate. And there's like this, it's like a code key thing. It's like a dongle looking thing that's gonna activates the laser, so you can you put that thing in the laser and you can use it. So, and the whole time Beverly and Howard just look at him like they think he's nuts. Like, you're a duck who flew through space and landed on Earth, but this guy is the crazy one. It's like, come on, Howard, get it together.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
And then the locals think Howard's pretty funny. They show up, give him the business. And Howard doesn't take guff. He quacks back, and they don't think it's very funny, and they grab him and they go to cook him and eat him. And that's why there's a bunch of humans surrounding him, throwing food on him because they're going to cook him.
They're
like
gonna cook them and eat them.
with his clothes on and everything, apparently. Like,
Huh.
very confusing. But
He
Howard,
talks. Yeah.
yeah, they
like,
think,
like English.
yeah, they think that the scientist is a ventriloquist and Howard is his dummy. But they're the dummies. Because
Hey.
Howard has the code key on him, which the scientist needs, or the Dark Overlord. Sorry, he is now the Dark Overlord. Dark Overlord needs that code key. So, he gets that code key. He's got magical electricity powers. He uses them to completely destroy all the humans. They're out there. He wrecks the diner.
He's got the golden glow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this was what's the Industrial Light and Magic is the George Lucas thing. So they got them doing the special effects. So I mean, they're, it's pretty good special effects. I mean, I enjoy it.
Also, the look on this bottom picture here is pretty outstanding.
Yeah, he gets progressively more and more messed up looking as the movie goes on. And he kidnaps, before he leaves the diner, he takes Beverly with him because he's going to use her body to absorb space demons, I think. Because the space demons have to, grow in a human body or something.
So she's gonna birth them.
Yes.
They're gonna gestate.
And they feed on electricity, so he he goes, so in this next time, so what happens is the cops show up again, and this time when the cops show up to the diner, they conveniently, again, this is like the third time where Phil's existence has just been convenient for the plot. It's like, how do we get out of this situation? What do we do next? I don't know, why doesn't Phil just show up? So Phil shows up in the back of a cop car, and you can see actually in the back of the cop car has no, cop cars, they'll have a barricade.
Sir.
This cop car doesn't. So he just literally ends up climbing over the seats and out the window, out the front of the car. And Howard's been just hanging out outside the diner in there's some kind of it's some kind of
decorative
thing outside, and he's just standing still, just pretending to be part of the decoration. And he, and then
they have
and so how they escape together, and they go to some warehouse next by the diner, and they find there's this flying plane machine thing, and it's a sequence. Let me tell you, this is a 10-minute sequence of them running from the cops in this plane thing. Yeah, it is so long.
This movie just seems long.
It was one of the things I said about this.
50 minutes is a long movie.
One of the things I said about this was hilarity ensues. The sequence goes on forever. There's so many duck puns in this sequence because he's flying, obviously, and it's a pretty long one, and the cops get lost. But while this is happening, the space overlord guy is consuming electricity. He goes to a power plant and takes all this energy. So that's why you see him on the bottom. Now he's really morphing into a messed up looking dude.
What was the name of the chick in Ghostbusters?
Gozer? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like Gozer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that, about the same time period. So you see in the top left there, they eventually do make it to the lab where they're going to save Beverly. Conveniently, and more convenient.
They got her this is just like Danger Mouse. She's got her all in the straps on the table.
Well, the convenient part about this is in the lab there is a disintegration ray.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right? Got to kill a big space alien guy. Well, you got a disintegration ray, and Beverly's and then they show up, and Beverly's please help me, I don't want to die, kind of a
Sure.
situation.
As
And then, boom, Howard shows up, he shoots the alien with the he shoots the space overlord with a disintegration ray, and you think, oh great, we're done. But wait, the alien that was inside of him and the scientist have now been separated. The scientist survives. They both survive. Alien and scientist both survive the disintegration ray. And it's like, well, that's impressive. And he's completely back to normal, by the way. He's not all messed up anymore. He's like he was, when you first see him.
It's like he just took a big dump.
Yeah.
And now you have weird insect rancor monster.
Yeah, and he is gross. He is like a scorpion, rancor monster kind of. Like, he is disgusting. And then Howard sets him up again. Boom, shoots him with a disintegration ray. Destroys the monster. But then the timer's going down because the aliens...
Was the disintegration ray already on the little car, or did they have to mount it?
I think they had to mount it on there so that Howard... That's also... It's like, why wasn't Phil controlling the disintegration ray? He's a scientist. He's probably has more expertise. But, Howard's the hero of the movie, which, I mean, I agree with. You know what? If anybody should get to kill this thing, it should be Howard because his name's on, the movie poster.
Yeah.
All right? It's not Phil the human. It's Howard the duck. But, yeah. So he zaps the monster. Monster destroyed. But then he has to destroy the lasers so that the other aliens don't come to Earth. And this is...
But, Andrew, then he won't be able to get back to the duck planet.
It's very emotional. Because of what you just said. And, Beverly's like, this planet didn't treat you well, but you still saved them, and what a hero, And then, but keep in mind, all right, we'll get to this next slide first, because this is the best scene of the whole movie is the music end credits song. There's a Howard the Duck song that she sings. Howard does a duck walk for like a couple frames. It's pretty spectacular. So consider this. The cops are still after them because they've escaped police custody like 2 or 3 times. The cops know nothing about aliens invading Earth. So as far as they're concerned, the scientist guy just completely wrecked the diner, and Howard and Beverly were accomplices. And Howard's an alien. This is very alarming. They should be very alarmed. There should be, like, if there was a part 2 to this, it would have been,
They don't know he's an alien, yeah? They still think he's a person.
It's very confusing. Some people react to Howard by just screaming. Like, there's this one lady at one point, she sees Howard and just screams out of terror, as if she knows this guy is an alien. Whereas some people just kind of look at him like, well, that's a weird dude. He's dressed up like a duck. Some people think he's like in a Halloween costume. So it's like a mixed, people don't know what to make of him. I feel like that's the kind of thing where, people start getting suspicious after a while. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, the big music performance at the end, definitely worth, if you're going to watch one scene on YouTube, you watch the musical performance at the end. Very exciting. But overall, my conclusions are that the music was great. The special effects, I thought the special effects of the movie got the job done. The actual story of it is way too long, and a lot of it doesn't really make any sense. There's a lot of plot holes and stuff where it's like, I want to know, did George Lucas actually read the script? And if so, was he wearing glasses, and was he legit yeah, let's make it. This is...
I mean, the source material is it's a duck who's, an alien, and he smokes cigars and goes around and does, it's it is what it is. It's I think you can't, it's a bad movie because it's just not, I feel like they didn't really do a good job of it's just...
The pacing of it.
it's cringy and slow and inauthentic, and the character isn't likable. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not like, did anyone like, lack of realism aside? I mean, like, who liked not Howard the Duck the movie, but Howard the Duck the character? I mean, he's a tool. I mean, it's like, I don't know.
It's a lot of puns. It's a lot of like, yeah, and like
it's like they're trying desperately to make you like him, and you can tell. It's like, this is, I mean, he's not.
I felt
He's not a very relatable character.
I felt like it would have been
It's
better.
Space Jam.
It would have It would have been better as like a cartoon or something. Would have been great.
So I wonder if I'm just thinking here. George Lucas is presented with this thing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he sees it as a way to showcase ILM. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna need this duck. There's gonna be fucking laser beams. There's some weird spooky space demon. We're gonna get to do all sorts of effects. Maybe that's another. He sees this and he's like, yeah, okay, whatever story. But I can go and then put all this, wacky,
Yeah.
these wacky effects behind us.
I'm curious as to where the $30 million went to actually make the movie. Like, was probably some special effects, but then at like the beginning of the movie when they're showing us Duck
Good
World,
actors.
it's like there's a lot of other ducks. Like there's old people ducks, and there's the lady in the bathtub with her duck boobs, and then there's like you see duck street people, you see duck street toughs. I'm pretty sure, maybe, I don't know, but
Who isn't a street tough to you? It's like anyone that's literally outside of their home is a street tough.
you gotta watch out for those street toughs, folks. And then so yeah, it was like, man, they had all these like duck suits. It's like, I feel like I would watch an entire movie that just took place in Duck World, like live action ducks.
Would it have a better story than this movie?
I
I mean,
feel
if
like,
it's the same story, but all the characters are ducks, I'm out.
yeah. No, yeah, I think they definitely lose you at the police chase scene at the end with the flying plane, because it's just
God,
typical.
I don't remember that.
It's just typical like 80s chase scene. And
I remember Leah Thompson's hair,
Yeah.
and I remember some parts of the plot that you described. Obviously I remember this scene. I could hear the song in my head, and despite the fact that I probably haven't watched this movie in 20 years, I could, I know how this, but it's, it's catchy. It's no never-ending story, but it's, it's catchy, but it's, I don't.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, the fact that there's a duck in the movie and Leah Thompson are really the only things I remember about this movie.
It's,
Yeah.
and it was all because I saw a silly looking VHS tape and I was like, what is that? I need it.
I
And it
feel
was
like
$5.
this movie might have been on television a couple of times. I mean,
I never saw it.
back in the 80s and
It
90s.
was PG.
Yeah.
Something.
I guess it was, if it was on
Or
TV.
it could have been HBO at every now and then,
I don't
Grandma's
think
Grandpa had HBO.
the problem with this movie is it is PG, but it's not really PG. Although seems like it's made for kids, but then it's got adult humor in it and adult oriented themed stuff, and so it's confusing as to like who's supposed to watch this movie. Like, I don't know. As a 16-year-old me, I remember I watched it one time. I popped it in, watched it, thought, oh my god, this movie is so long, and I think I watched it all the way through one time. It was like, I don't like it, but I like having it on my shelf. And then every now, because I would have the setup with all the TVs, and I would have like the VHS player hooked up to one thing, and I have a DVD player hooked up to another, and I have video games, and I have cable, and I would have this on mute in like the background, just for funs, see.
It's the I'm hearing things about this movie, and it sounds like there's like good actors in it, and it looks interesting, and it sounds interesting, but the actual like plot and writing are
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, that good. But because Tim Robbins is in it, and you think of Tim Robbins, you think Shawshank Redemption, like.
Based on his filmography, this is kind of before he was.
Yeah.
He had done a lot of stuff.
Because then he does Bull Durham like a couple years after this, and yeah, it seemed like he did a lot of comedy, but yeah, the character he plays in this was a bit of like it was a doofus. He was like when you first introduced to him, you're like, how is this guy a scientist? Like he looks like he's just a guy that stole an identity of a scientist, and he's just like a wackadoo.
Curious, like I haven't read the comic. I wonder how authentic this like how well they achieved whatever the original character in the books was.
Yeah.
Or did they just completely go rogue on it? Like, was the original likable at all? And if so, why? Because I don't feel like, I mean, it could just be me. I'm kind of like a fucking miserable person, so that could be why I just don't, maybe, sometimes there'll be characters and it's like, this character's great, and I'm like, I think it's fucking garbage. So it's like, I don't know. Howard the Duck though is awful. He's a terrible character. It's like you watch the movie and it's like, someone, you're rooting for the friggin', the yokels to eat the duck. That's sort of movie.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll say Howard the Duck is a terrible movie.